You are watching a simple way to understand higher self. My name is Goodall, and you shouldn't blindly believe anything I'm going to share with you in this video. I share this information only to inspire you to find a truth that works for you. I encourage you to question everything, challenge everything that I'm going to share with you, and test it and do your own research. Find out the theories and the beliefs that align with what you feel is true in your heart. So if you watched my last two videos, A Simple Way to Understand God and A Simple Way to Understand Ascension, then this is the third video in the series. If you haven't watched those videos, you might want to check those out if you want to go deeper. This video will still make some sense, but those videos will take it all together and pull it all together in a much deeper way for you. So in those first two videos, I talked about the two symbols known as the Tetragrammaton and the Pentagramaton. As I shared in the last videos, the Tetragrammaton, the six-pointed star, represents God, creator, or conscious universe. The pentagram represents higher self. And I'll get more deep into what that actually means here shortly. So the Tetragrammaton is also known as the star of the macrocosm, so the star of the big everything. The pentagram represents the star of the microcosm, the little everything. And then down here we have our stickman friend. The hair is because it's my hair, right? Long hair. So this is a stickman, this is the higher self, this is the God, creator, or conscious universe. So we, the people, exist in the third dimension. And as I said in the previous videos, this is all just analogy. You shouldn't take this literally. Just let it inspire you to understand these concepts at a deeper level. The Pentagramaton, or the higher self, exists in the fifth dimension. And God, creator, or conscious universe, or the Tetragrammaton, exists in the seventh dimension. We are a reflection of the Tetragrammaton, and the Tetragrammaton is a reflection of us, and the Pentagramaton is the mediator in the middle, the higher self, or the mediator between us and God. So we are the identity or the character that we created to interact with the world, but really we're the self. Really we're this five-pointed star. This identity or character is just what we're pretending to be, something we formed at birth, something we started forming in our childhood so that we could interact with the physical reality. But that's not actually who we are. Who we really are is the self, the child of God, so to speak, the higher self, pretending to be human beings. So we are God existing as the higher self, pretending to be a human being. Now, as I mentioned in the last videos, a lot of what you're going to learn today, if you watch the last videos, a lot of this is just going to pull it together and just go a little deeper into the concept of the higher self. If you haven't watched those other videos, you can still enjoy this video. You might just get more out of it if you watch those videos first or even after. So the Pentagramaton, as I mentioned in the last video, represents the five elements: fire, water, ether, air, and earth. And the Tetragrammaton, the six-pointed star, should be able to see, yeah, you can kind of see it, represents fire, water, air, and earth. So it represents four elements. The five-pointed star, I know it's hard to see with that light shining. You can kind of see it if I put it up here or something like this. There you go. Fire, water, air, earth. Have a hole in my armpit? No, it's a hole in this armpit. Yeah, there's the armpit hole. So that the five-pointed star represents the five elements. And those five elements also represent our spiritual body, emotional body, ethereal body, or our consciousness, mental body, and our physical body. If this is completely new to you, I'm not going to go deep into what these bodies means in this video, because we're going to go a little deeper in the concept. But the last video, a simple way to understand Ascension, I go much deeper. And in the first video, I touch on it. But essentially, the fire element, or the spiritual body, is like our energy. The emotional body is our feelings, our pain and our pleasure. This is our faith and our fear. Our mental body is our beliefs, our thoughts, our words, and our habits. And our physical body is our actual physical body. It's our physical manifestation of our body. It's our health. It's our vitality. It's our vibrancy. It's our physical security, our financial security, and so on. As I mentioned in the previous video, every choice or experience creates an imprint in each of our bodies. The examples I gave in the last video are, if we come home and we have a math test, we only got 80% on it. Mom or dad says, well, why didn't you get 100? We, first of all, create a fear of not being good enough. We create a fear of not being good enough, of not being accepted, and we create the belief that we're not good enough. The feeling is a feeling of guilt or shame or inadequacy, and then we might create tension in our body every time we take a test, and then we become disconnected from our higher self, disconnected from God, creator, or conscious universe. Just a very basic concept. Now, I'm not going to get into that again. If you want to learn more about it, check out the last video. It will go much deeper. So every choice or experience imprints our 5 bodies, and every imprint goes on to influence every choice or experience. Remember, I said if you fail the math test, it creates an imprint in all of these bodies. So now in the future, if you have a belief that you're not good enough, you're going to behave as if you're not good enough. So the imprint, I'm not good enough, or guilt, shame, or inadequacy, or tension, or fear that you might not be accepted for who you are, will now affect every choice and experience every choice you make and every experience you have for the rest of your life, unless the imprint, or the program, as I called it in the last video, is healed, or neutralized, or resolved, or reprogrammed, etc. Lots of different ways to explain it. Every choice or experience imprints all of our 5 bodies, or creates a program in all of our 5 bodies, because remember in the last video I said each of the 5 bodies acts like sort of like an operating system in a computer. Your computer has one operating system. Well, we as 5-dimensional beings have 5 operating systems that are constantly running, and they work together. But the issue is when we have too many imprints or programs that aren't aligned with our highest self, then we start to behave in ways that aren't aligned with our higher self, and we create issues for ourselves and unnecessary suffering. Each of our bodies, before I get to that, who we really are, our true self, is this Pentagramaton, the 5 bodies, without misaligned programs. Who we really are is the self above the identity. So the identity, in my case, Ricky, in your case, whoever you are, our identity equals our programs. If you have a favorite hockey team, that's a program. If you've got a preference in the type of people you like to be in intimate relationships with, that's a program. Favorite foods you don't like, all programs. That's your identity. But who you really are is free of programming. Who you really are is free of preferences. Because who we really are, there is no duality. We live in a non-dual state at our highest self. This is advanced. These are advanced concepts. If it's way over your head, again, please check out the other videos. It'll make more sense. I might not say that any more times, but I mean it. So who we really are is the self beneath the programming, or the self above the identity. So who we really are is the self beneath the identity or programs, or the self above the identity, above who we pretend we are in this 3rd dimension. Each of our elements, or each of our bodies, each of our energetic bodies, has fundamental characteristics pre-programmed. So if we were to come into this earth, into an environment where we're completely accepted for who we are, we have full freedom to develop ourselves without being influenced by the people around us, then we would live as the higher self, just like children come in pure, happy, joyful, fun. That's who we would be, because each of the bodies or each of the elements has core characteristics pre-programmed. For example, the fire element is pre-programmed with courage, will, determination. You see that okay? It's getting yeah, you can see it all right. Focus, motivation. These are fundamental characteristics we as the higher self embody. Our water element or our spiritual body, so again, remember this is spiritual body is the fire element. Water element is our emotional body. So our water element or our emotional body brings characteristics of compassion. This is what I call the main fundamental characteristic. Courage, and then will, determination, focus, and motivation are sort of like sub-characteristics, courage being the main one, compassion in terms of water. So we're all born with compassion. We all have this capacity inside of ourselves. If we're left to be who we really are, we're compassionate naturally. We're empathetic. We're understanding. We're patient. These are natural characteristics that we're born with, but we kind of have them beaten out of us through society. We watch a reality TV show, or we're in the school systems, and we're not accepted for who we are. We're told we have to be someone we're not, or different, or our parents were maybe they were badly abused when they were children, so they don't give us space to be who we really are. Our ether element, or our consciousness, has unconditional love, faith, forgiveness, and trust. These are the fundamental characteristics of our consciousness: love, faith, forgiveness, and trust. Most of us human beings, myself included, have to clean all of our 5 bodies so we can get back to these states of courage, compassion, love, wisdom. So the air element, our mental body, comes with wisdom, intelligence, awareness. Wisdom, knowing, intelligence, and awareness. And again, wisdom, in my opinion, being the fundamental characteristic of the air element. And then finally, earth, we come in with humility, discipline, service, respect, and gratitude. For those of you esoteric nerds like me, gratitude may also fit up here in the ether element, because through gratitude we connect with God or a higher self. So these are our natural fundamental characteristics as the higher self. So when all of our elements are cleaned, which you learned about in the last video, when we clean or reprogram or purge our 5 elements, we get back to this natural state: courage, compassion, wisdom, humility, and love. That's our fundamental, that's who we truly are as the higher self. Now, if things happen to us in our childhood or in our past, and we get a little beaten up, we experience a lot of what I call highly stimulating events. Some people call them traumas. Highly stimulating events feels a little better for me. If we experience a lot of highly stimulating events, we may become weak or afraid. We may lose our will. We may lose our determination. We may no longer be motivated. We may be discouraged. We may lack focus. We may become indifferent. We may lack empathy. We may become impatient. We may no longer accept our creation of reality. We may lose our faith, and we may no longer forgive people. We may become hardened. We start to hate. Hate's a strong word, but it's a feeling we have. We become prideful. We become ignorant, arrogant, think we know everything. Again, pride down here, again with humility. We no longer practice humility. We become pride. We don't act prideful. We don't ask for help. We don't accept help. We lack discipline. We don't serve. We become greedy. We lose respect. We become disrespectful in our lives. So if we experience a lot of highly stimulating events, we become disconnected from our higher self, and we lack a lot of these fundamental characteristics that we all come here with, but we lose it when things happen to us. But when we begin to clean our spiritual body through practicing will and focus, and maybe it's meditation or martial arts or archery or things that require focused will, when we start to clean our emotional body by expressing our emotions, learning how to communicate our needs and feelings, learning how to heal ourselves, learning how to become more patient and understanding, learning how to practice empathy. When we clean our consciousness by connecting to the divine, maybe sitting in ceremony. Again, I talked about this in the last video. Learning how to trust, practicing gratitude. When we clean our mental body by learning about the esoteric systems, learning about how to connect to God, creator of conscious universe, gaining a level of awareness through connecting to our inner wisdom. When we clean our physical body through detoxification, disciplined exercise, disciplined eating, having respect for our home and our temple, our physical temple, meaning our body, and our temple around us, meaning our environment, then we begin to clean these bodies, and they start to resonate as one element. So the 5 elements become one element, and we become the higher self. As our elements become clean and purified, as we begin to reprogram all of the misaligned programming that disconnects us from our higher self, fire, water, ether, air, and earth no longer resonate or vibrate as individual elements that are out of alignment. They begin to vibrate as one element. That one element is the higher self. Now, there's in ancient Hebrew mysticism, forgive my pronunciation and the symbols I'm using, the letters I'm using are based on my understanding. They might be different than yours depending on your philosophies. Yod was used to represent fire, the letter Yod. He, or I believe the pronunciation is different than that, maybe Yod Kai or Yod He. Shin, Vav, He again. These are both feminine, they represent the same thing. So Yod, He, Shin, Vav, He. Now you might recognize this. It looks very similar to the Yod, He, Vav, He, which actually represents the 6-pointed star, fire, water, air, earth, or father, mother, son, daughter, king, queen, prince, princess, which is the father and the mother coming together as one, and that's air and that's water, all of the elements together. So in other words, Yod He Vav He represents the universe or nature. Yod He Shin Vav He represents the universe or nature plus the self. If a person understands this, they can heal any illness, physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. They can perform true miracles, connect to the divine, understand God, creator of conscious universe, If they truly understand what I have right here, they can understand the fundamental basis of every religion: Hinduism, Taoism, Catholicism, Christianity, Judaism, Hermetics, Qabalah, alchemy, shamanism, paganism. They all are based around this very simple diagram. Yod, He, Shin, Vav, He is fire, water, ether, air, earth. But when they all come together as one element, one being, they become, I wish I had like a drum roll sound effect. They become Yaheshua, which you might understand as the root word for Jesus. In other words, Jesus is our higher self, but not Jesus as in the Christian Jesus. Jesus as in Yaheshua. Jesus as in fire, water, ether, air, earth, fully purified, fully cleansed, fully healed. Now, I'm not going to get into my opinion about whether Jesus 2,000 years ago was a real person or not. Maybe, because I don't know. I didn't live 2,000 years ago. Well, maybe I did. Who knows? What I believe Yaheshua to mean is a title given to somebody. Yaheshua, sometimes spelled Yeshua without the H in the middle, but then we're missing the water element, means salvation. Yeshua means salvation, and Christ, there are so many different ways to say the word Christ, but basically means anointed. Now, an anointing is a ritual that was practiced in ancient times and still is practiced now. I have been anointed. It's a special ritual that represents a resurrection, the death of your identity and the resurrection of your higher self. Now, that's my interpretation. Find your own meaning for it. So Yaheshua Christ, or Jesus Christ, meant somebody who has been anointed and has reached salvation. Does that mean he was our Savior? Well, only because he found the way he got to the end of the finish line. He cleaned his bodies. And then he had an understanding that was higher than other people's. So he was able to share it with the world from his own perspective. Now, a lot of the ancient systems called him Yaheshua ben Joseph, Yaheshua son of Joseph. But if you read the book, The Unknown Life of Jesus Christ by Nicholas Notovich, he says that the ancient Tibetans and places in India, the ancient temples had scrolls about Jesus, and they said his name was actually Isa, that Yaheshua wasn't actually his name. My understanding is that Yaheshua was the title given to him because of the level of consciousness he reached. It was a title, not an actual name. It wasn't his name. And so I want to share with you now some verses in two different books. Now, you might think these books aren't related. One of them is the Bhagavad Gita about Krishna, and the other one is the Bible, the New Testament about Jesus. By the way, I'm not Christian. I wouldn't call myself religious except for the fact that I'm dedicated to the religion that I have formed with 4 of my students, called Unism, YOUNISM. It's very simple. There are two laws. Law 1, you are a child of God. And law 2, love all, harm none. That's it. That's the whole basis of our religion. No other rules, no other expectations. You're on your own journey. You're a child of God. Who am I to tell you what to do? Love all, harm none. Just because if you harm anyone, it just comes back to you. Because as you learned in previous videos, what we put out comes back to us. So it's not about, God judging me. It's about me judging myself. As within, so without. I create my own reality. So I'm not trying to promote my religion here. I'm just saying that I believe that this is the way the world could benefit from living from these principles. You are a child of God. You are the center of your universe. You have a connection to the divine. You get to figure out what's best for you. So in John 10:30, now if you ask me, what do I think of the Bible? Well, I think the Bible is written in 2 ways. It's written, 1, for the average person, and then it's written for initiates. An initiate is somebody who's been anointed. is somebody who's been initiated into the sacred sciences. They understand the code behind the matrix. They understand the code behind these scriptures, and they're not all the same. So in this passage, John 10:30, Jesus simply says, I and the Father are one. Jesus is the Yeshua. Father is six-pointed star. We are the mother. Father, mother, holy child. Pretty simple, right? Or Father, Holy Spirit, and Son, if you wish. I and the Father are one, because the 5 elements are a reflection of the 4 elements with the self, with the observer, with the Eye of Horus. I can't draw the Eye of Horus, but you know what it is. I'm sure you've heard of it before. So when Jesus said in John 30, I and the Father are one, what I understand he means is I and the Father are a reflection of one another. We are one and the same. The next verse, just after this one, was John 10:34. Jesus said, is it not written in your law, I have said you are a God? So is it not written in your law, Jesus said, God said, I have said you are gods. God said in the Torah that we are all gods. We are all reflections of God. We are all gods of our own experience. We're all gods of our own reality. Jesus said, is it not written in your law, I said you are all gods? He said it right in the Bible. In the Gita, the Bhagavad Gita, which is about a story about Krishna speaking to Arjuna, chapter 2, verse 22 to 25, Krishna said, and I quote, the self cannot be burned, or the self cannot be pierced by weapons or burned by fire. Water cannot wet it, nor can the wind dry it. Now, if you're clever, you can hear the 4 elements there. The self cannot be pierced by weapons, which I understand is the earth element, or burned by fire, which I understand is the fire element. Water cannot wet it, which I understand is the water element, nor can the wind dry it, which I understand is the air element. The self cannot be pierced, burned, made wet, or dry. It is everlasting and infinite, standing on the motionless foundation of eternity. The self is unmanifested, beyond all thought, beyond all change. Knowing this, you should not grieve. Krishna said it himself. The self cannot be pierced. The self is not manifested. We are manifested as the self, pretending to be just human. Another passage in the Gita, again in chapter 2, verse 55. Krishna said, and I quote, they live in wisdom who see themselves in all and all in them. So in other words, we are all reflections of one another. Let me read it again. They live in wisdom who see themselves in all and all in them. This video is just your own consciousness reminding you of who you are. I'm not a real being in your creation. We are both higher beings existing individually. We are one. They live in wisdom who see themselves in all and all in them. Next, the Gita, chapter 4, verse 6. Now, I'm not sharing this stuff to create any controversy. Well, maybe a little bit of controversy. I'm not sharing this stuff to offend anyone. These are just my theories, my opinions. God has led me and guided me to record all of these video series. I've worked on this work over the last 5 years, hundreds of ceremonies, traveled to Peru and Mexico and California and all across Canada to do this work. Well, maybe in the eastern and middle parts of Canada to do this work. So I'm sharing it only to inspire you, not to convince you of anything. In the Gita chapter 4, verse 6, Krishna says, my true being is unborn and changeless. I am the Lord who dwells in every creature. Through power of my own Maya or illusion, I manifest into finite form. So through power of my own illusion, I manifest into finite form. I am the self in all beings, changeless and unmanifested. Krishna's telling us that the true self is unmanifested and that we are the actual self pretending to be human beings. The last verse, chapter 4, verse 9. Krishna says, those who know me as their own divine self break through the belief that they are the body and are not reborn as separate creatures. So again, those who know me as their own divine self break through the belief that they are the body and are not reborn as separate creatures. So when we enlighten ourselves, when we clean our 5 bodies, we're not reborn again. We get to stay infinite. We get to become enlightened. We get to ascend and live forever. We're not reborn into the cycles of reincarnation again. We don't have to come back as a separate identity. We can retain our true highest self and avoid the hell of reincarnation. And then finally, chapter 4, I thought the last one was the last one, but this is the last one. Chapter 4, verse 11, once again, Krishna says, as they approach me, so I receive them. All paths lead to me. All paths lead to the self. All paths lead to truth. It doesn't matter if it's Taoism, Hinduism, Christianity, Catholicism, Judaism. The initiate can read the code behind the lines. The initiate can read the code behind the words. And the code tells us that we are all the self, manifested from the God, pretending to be human. This is the higher self. You are the higher self pretending to be a human being. You are not the identity that you came into this world pretending to be. You are something so much more. So much more. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. Please comment in the comment section. Let me know what you thought. Share it with somebody that you could benefit, and subscribe to my channel because I've got lots more content coming out. If you'd like to hear my deeper theories around this and hear the path that I went through to go through my cleaning my body so I could understand this work, you can check out my audiobook, The Rise of the Authentic Self, in the description of this video. You can download it for free. And if you'd like to connect to a tribe of like-minded people who are all living as if we are God, creator of conscious universe, manifested as the higher self, pretending to be just human, check out The Tribe, www.thetribe.me. You can find out more about that in the description as well. You can join us for free. We have programs and events and classes and even a social media app to keep you reminded that you are the higher self, pretending to be just human. Thanks for watching.